look at anything yet, but let's see. We have a presentation, or item number 2A of the FY26 proposed budget. Let's see.
Good evening. So yes, we'll be reviewing, I know you've received the proposed budget on August 1st, so you've had some time to at least look through it and read it. So we'll go over all the major funds in this presentation. We start with Council's strategic pillars. There is some funding in the fiscal 26 budget to start the implementation of these pillars, but a lot of what you'll see throughout this budget supports these pillars. Because tax rate, or the property tax in general, the revenue is a large part of our budget, always want to emphasize the tax rate process. The two rates that we look at are the maintenance and operation part of the rate, which covers the general fund, and the interest in sinking or the debt service fund. But then we also have the TERS fund that's in there that is also supported by property tax. So there are several rates that get calculated. The no new revenue rate is the same revenue year over year. That's a very generalized statement. There's a lot of complicated calculation that goes into the no new revenue. So it's not quite as simple as the definition. And then the voter approval rate, which is 3.5% over the no new revenue M&O rate. It's just a quick visual of how you get to the rates and how you get to the total tax levy. So the property tax, this just shows year over year. I also have, back in June when we brought the preliminary, we were at a rate of 54.34, which that broken down, the M&O rate was 25.08 and the debt rate was 29.26. So all of those numbers have gone down from our preliminary rates. So we are sitting at a 53.50 proposed rate, which does equal our voter approval tax rate, with a debt rate of 28.50. This chart just shows the difference in the no new revenue rate over the proposed rate and how much more revenue we are receiving in this budget by using the voter approval rate. So it's around $686,000. This chart compares the changes in average taxable homestead value and tax rate year over year. So we're looking at a $4 a month increase. Your taxes could increase. This table doesn't mean that they will increase, because all property values could differ. This chart compares the tax rate with the taxes paid. The rate has been trending down until fiscal 24, and that's where we saw a good size increase in the debt rate. And so now you will start seeing that orange line, which is the tax rate, or the total taxes paid, start to come down as the rate starts to come down with valuations. But you can see our valuations are flattening a bit. So you're not seeing as much growth as you did in outer years.
I'm sorry, Tracy, going back to that.
Uh-huh.
So, okay, that's homestead. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
I think the key thing to point out here is those blue bars, right? Comparing fiscal 25 to 26, it's pretty flat. And so that's, you'll see that in our revenue side.
So this chart just kind of breaks out our appraised taxable value between the residential and commercial, kind of showing the trends of residential and commercial. Residential is actually showing a bit of a flattening, whereas commercial is slightly increasing. Residential is 72% of our taxable value, where commercial is 28%. This is a comparison over other cities, their rates. We did contact and got the proposed rates. For everybody except Leander, that is actually their fiscal 25 adopted rate. But do want to point out these communities are all at different stages in growth and infrastructure needs. So even though we like to benchmark against other jurisdictions, we have to keep that in mind.
I'm sorry, go back another slide. Okay, never mind. Okay, go ahead.
So these are key budget assumptions for all funds. Just want to keep that in mind. We'll talk about each of the major funds separately. But overall, fund balance target, our policy is 25%. We're always going to want to be at or above that. We did use the voter approval rate to build this budget. We did use a conservative sales tax projection at 3%, which is what we are trending currently. There are increases, as you saw in the July 8th work session. You know, we have brought forward increases in development fees, parks and recreation, and utilities. Under expenditures, general fund is showing a decrease in number of positions, whereas the utility fund is increasing. The annual 3% increase in base salaries and a 5% increase in health insurance, and just overall reduction in employee appreciation, training, employee incentives. And then there's increased maintenance costs for expanded parks facilities. Debt service, the total debt for fiscal 26, general fund is at $42 million, and the utility fund is at $33 million. We are anticipating, based on the capital improvement plan, that we will need up to $99 million. This amount could change once we get to the point in time that we need to issue, but that's kind of our ceiling that we're looking at. Some of the big projects on the general side are the Public Works Complex and Emmanuel Road, and then there are ongoing water and wastewater CIP projects.
How much of the 99 million is general fund versus utility?
I think utility is 69 of that.
I remember seeing 30
Yeah.
debt issuance in the general fund.
Okay.
Yeah, which would leave 69.
It would have to be the last.
Yeah. So this is just a very high-level glance at all of the funds. This total budget expenditure is $292.8 million. 380 million of that is in government funds, the general fund, debt service, and the capital projects fund. 8.2 million in the special revenue, which hotel occupancy tax is part of that, the court special revenues, our public education and government channel fund, the tax increment reinvestment zone funds, our public improvement districts, there's 3 of them, and public safety special revenues. 381 million is in utilities, the water wastewater operating fund, the solid waste fund, and the utility capital projects fund. And then 22 million in the PCDC. So focusing in a little bit more on just the general fund, this is a very high level summary. Revenues are increasing 800,000, whereas recurring expenditures are increasing by 1.4 million. Capital outlays, you can see in fiscal 25, we programmed 5.1. This year it's 1.5, which leaves us at an estimated fund balance of 19.5 million, which puts us right at 30% in fund balance.
Can I, in future slides, can we have net change, revenue minus expenditures and capital outlay, so we can get the net number easily visible?
Sure.
Thank you.
So some of the revenue changes in this budget, total appraised taxable values increased by 552 million. 31% is from new property valuation at 172 million. Sales tax, as I alluded to earlier, is 3% over fiscal 25 projections. And I kind of explain it. Development fees in general are going down, but if you look at year over year, there are some parkland escrow funds that are in that fiscal 25 projected amount. So if you back those out, you would see a decrease in that funding line item. But we are seeing an increase in recreation revenue, estimated increase 42% or 364,000.
On the property tax, do we have information as to the breakout between residential and commercial?
On the valuation, that was a couple of slides earlier.
Oh, did I miss that?
Which one?
Sorry.
We can go back.
The appraised value between residential. Residential is 72%.
Oh, okay, a
Commercial is
graph.
28%.
Okay.
This slide 10.
Okay, oh, okay, sorry. Thank you.
Just a quick visual of where we've been the last several years in sales tax. As you can see, the last 3 years has really started to flatten the growth year over year. Some expenditure highlights of the general fund in the personnel category, total reduction of 13 positions. As we've talked about, the health insurance increase and the annual cost of living are all built into this budget. The personnel as a category increased $2 million over fiscal 25's projections. On the operating side, there was some natural increases in field maintenance, mowing, and landscaping that were related to new facilities that we're bringing on during fiscal 25. Vehicle leases would be increasing with a full year of the lease payments, and reduction in employee appreciation, training, and incentives. That category decreased by $790,000. And then we are using available fund balance over the 25% reserve requirement to fund some of those one-time and capital purchases. On page 23 of the budget, it lists what staff has requested in this budget year.
Tracy, I had a question about, so we see a total reduction in staff, 13 positions. I mean, my personal opinion has always been that I'm apprehensive to actually reduce staff, and that's the last thing that we have to do in that. We have a COLA for at 3%. Have we looked or floated the idea of having a smaller COLA to make sure that we're able to actually retain that staff?
So
We have.
Yeah.
We have looked at that. We believe that the people that are that we want to invest in, we'd rather invest fully than decrease back. What we're seeing, the differences of healthcare rising. If you make $20 an hour and you get a 1.5% increase, but your insurance went up, you don't get an increase. So it's more about making sure that there are actual cost of living adjustments rather than the employee being hurt and not getting an actual raise.
The net
The
pay.
3% gets me closer to them at least balancing out.
So my concern is the way you put it. You said we rather invest in the employee fully. I think that's sandbagging the conversation, because I don't think that necessarily you're saying that if you have a smaller COLA, given how, I mean, just like any other entity, what the actual realities of what we're dealing with right now. That's not saying you're not investing in someone fully. That's trying to see what you can do to make a demonstrable difference in making sure that we don't have to limit other people. Because then I'd say, okay, so then 13 other people, if we're using your lexicon, we'd say we're not.
Then I need to correct
My
on
question-
the word positions
Yeah, is
versus
it
people.
vacant
There
or
you go.
not?
So
Yeah.
I feel comfortable with what we presented. That these are positions, not
Not
persons. They're not, we're not doing a layoff.
Just-
So understand the word 13 positions, I'd have to go back and look at them. So for
So we're
example, we
sweeping
had,
positions.
whatever, we're eliminating
Eliminating-
13 funded positions.
Yeah.
They're funded positions, but not necessarily occupied.
Fulfilled.
positions.
Exactly. So you're sweeping.
So
Not
they're vacant?
necessarily.
Okay.
Not all of them are vacant, and I have
Okay.
an anticipation to increase on a contract side so that some of those positions would slide over to open positions in another department, for example. So if you have a vacancy in one division, I can move over people. Because y'all have not voted on this, I have not announced that. I would, I'm asking for a little bit of grace, and I'm very comfortable with those 13 positions and how we're moving forward.
So this is what I'd say. Can we go back to the slide of the sales tax? We've had the conversation that we don't think, and during our summer recess, I think, definitely got enough information to find out. I mean, this is not atypical for anybody in the region. This is happening.
It's all over the
Yeah,
place.
exactly. It's all over is what's happening here. And that this specific issue is not one that's going to, we expect to have some sort of tremendous impact or uptake in the next coming year. So consequently, the issues that we're facing, that we're talking about budget-wise, are still going to be of concerns likely playing into next year
It's
as well.
why positions matter.
Yeah. So then, my question is this: is that how are we going to build a position? Or you said fully support. I'll use your vernacular. The folks that we have in place next year, with the reality of the situation that we had to make, we had the ability to sweep, however you want to put those 13 positions, but that we won't have that flexibility next year.
You might see more next year. Yeah, you may.
Yeah.
And so what we're looking at is reoccurring cost, and that's people. And so if I can do 13 now, I can't promise you what it'll be next year, but we'll have the exact same look at it next year. One thing that we're doing right now, and there's staff members that have had these hard conversations with me in the past few weeks, is if someone leaves today, we're taking a real hard look at, do we fill it? And what services are going to be compromised, because they are being compromised. If a library staff person is not filled, then yes, I'm decreasing programs. There is a front-facing impact to these. We're just trying to do the least amount of front-facing impacts we can do. But let's be frank, all of these people are public servants, and most of them, it's line-level people. 70% of our organization is blue collar. These are line level people. So I've got to think about who has the least impact, and that's going to get harder and harder every year. This isn't a conversation for this year. It's a repeating conversation for years to come.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say some of the incentives, I know we've talked about reducing the employee incentives, but a lot of the incentive cuts were because we needed to make adjustments for beyond fiscal 26. So we're actually making changes to, benefit structures. And so some of those things, like it was a nice to have and it was great. But maybe new employees don't get that benefit. I mean, so a lot of those changes are beyond 26.
And let's be clear, even further with this, we're facing, and I appreciate you and staff being on top of this, a reduction from, this is at 3.5%, and we're facing 2.5% currently in our legislature. And we already said years ago that 3.5 wasn't nearly going to keep up with the growth of the city, and now we're trying to axe that even further on there. There has to be a real conversation with the citizens about what kind of city they want, what services they want, what provision of that. Because we invest in people because people are the ones who provide the services that are making the most difference in the lives of everyone here in Pflugerville. And if their lives are being detrimented by what's happening here, if we're having a flattening of our sales tax, if we're not having an inability for our legislature to understand that cities are the crazy concept engines of the economy of the Texas miracle, then it's only going to get worse.
Well, I mean, a 3% pay increase is still a good pay increase, so I'm not really seeing that as being very negative. The other thing is there's a lot of private businesses that are facing these same issues too, so it's not necessarily, we're not alone in this. But sometimes when you have tighter boundaries, it allows everyone to look more closely at what we're spending and making sure that we're investing in the right expenses and the right things that bring the most value. And so it's good to do this every once in a while. I mean, not necessarily having to do it out of necessity, but I think it's good to evaluate our expenses and making sure that these are bringing the best value to our citizens and to our staff.
So my question is this: you've been here for almost a year. You've got to be able to go participate in the budget process, everything that's working there. Have you seen anything where you feel like that we have been either onerous, heavy-handed, or a lack of responsible spending, fiscal responsibility in our budget, in what you've seen?
No, I'm not saying that there's irresponsible spending, but there's always ways to refine. And, refining a couple of percent so that you can maybe take it from one area and spend in the other, or let the citizens keep more money in their pockets. I think it's good to always evaluate that.
But that's not my question. What I'm saying is that I've been here for quite a while, and one of the things that often happens when people first get on council is thinking the city's spending like, I don't know, outrageously, irresponsibly, what's going on here? I'm going to cut. We had a certain council member in here who came on here years ago who thought he was going to bring a hatchet, and he said, no, actually.
A machete, I thought it was.
Yeah, a machete.
Machete.
And it was actually a scalpel.
Scalpel.
And
A blowtorch turned into a Bic lighter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's been that way. I mean, from what we've seen, we've been around for quite a while now. We haven't seen anything that's irresponsible in what they're doing with here. So, my concern is what you're saying is some sort of any conjecture to the citizens that, hey, wait a minute, this will allow for them to be able to be fiscally more responsible in what they're spending and what they're doing with it. While at the same time, realistically speaking, that's not the case from what I've seen here. In fact, what I'm seeing here is that there has been a great fiscal restraint in what's happened here, and now there's an ability for that to even be curbed even further given what's happened in the legislature, and that's my concern. Is that so? If we're saying right here that even what you're saying, as you said, Serena, there are people in some of these positions right here, the 13 moving around, everything else from there as well. We won't have that next year. Our sales tax is flattening, and we have no expectation for that to go ahead and change anytime soon with that as well. And if we have even more pressures under a 2.5% cap, as opposed to a 3.5% cap, a real conversation needs to be had with the citizens about what do you want here? You tell us, it's what do we play, Monopoly, those other games, like, okay, hey, listen, okay, you want to spend on this, what are you going to do from that?
Okay, so what I have seen by looking at the budgets for many years, and sometimes it's difficult because I don't have access to year over year in one document, so that's difficult to say. But I think if I, and I'm just going to have generalizations because I didn't look up the numbers, but there was a significant difference in the projected surplus or net change from last year to what actually happened, which to the tune of somewhere between 5 to 7 million swing. So that is a large swing to say this is what our net is we think our net is going to be, and it was $5 to $7 million more when the books were closed. So that's what I'm talking about, refining estimates and doing that. I don't. I've spoken many times at City Council before, but I believe that I advocated for better refined estimates and really looking at things. And I've never advocated for major cuts because I value people and all the staff here, and I want the citizens to have the services. But it's, sometimes it's a small change in an estimate could have a large impact. So, for the example, we haven't gotten to the utility fund, but it was an $8 million.
That's where I was going to say.
$8 million, a swing. There was a $5 to $7 million swing. Our fund balance was 42% a couple of years ago. So going from 25% to 42% fund balance means that we had surpluses over the years. So that means that we were, for whatever reason, the taxes were more than the expenses. I'm just assuming that all the other services and development fees and parks and rec fees we're not covering their associated expenses. So the surplus, I'm using that word because it's just easier. There were surpluses over the years. So what I'm talking about is refining it so that maybe the surpluses aren't so high. We don't have to raise property taxes as much because the city has done a good job of managing the expenses, but we just need to make sure that, you know, those surpluses are minimized so that we're allowing people to keep more of the money in their pockets. Because going from $1,500 a year to $2,000 a year in property taxes in just over 3 years, that's a 33% increase. You know, and it's not necessarily maintenance and operations, it's the debt rate, which used to be 1/3 of the overall rate and is now more like 50 to 55%. So those are the other areas that the spending decisions and the timing of when debt is borrowed, that has had a huge impact on our property tax rate. So that's where I want to have refined estimates.
Yeah, but there's a lot of factors that
Sure.
go into that, Melody, and I understand what you're saying. And we're talking about debt rate. Well, do we do the debt rate now or 10 years from now? Well, what is it going to cost 10 years from now? A heck of a lot more. So, I mean, I think over the years, although the debt rate is substantial, I mean, we're making some major investments in infrastructure, utilities, et cetera, that lend itself towards a very growing community, which we are. And in terms of what Rudy said, what do the citizens want? Well, sometimes we know, sometimes we don't know what they want, but we do have some basic standards within our operations to know where we need to get to 10 years from now, 15 years from now. I mean, we bought the property where the sewer plant's going, 15 years ago for $1 million. And we didn't need it then, but we knew we were going to need it. And so what happens? Well, here it is now. And we have to make those investments very early on to forecast for the future. And I realize it's not an easy task for you guys. And I was going to ask, is there an algorithm that you guys use for that? Or
I mean, we make educated guesses based on information that we have in front of us. I mean, it's hard to make projections in July as to where we're going to land by the time we get all the invoices in November. So, you know, we do.
Well, and then you don't really have any control in your investment tools and vehicles because at this point we don't know where the economy's going. So.
And to that point, how many years ago? I mean, I know I keep talking. Soon we're all going to be gone to the olden days, right? But I mean, being back in the old council chambers, sitting there with Omar, talking about, just like you said, that plant years ago and saying, okay, let's try to build this as big as possible, as much capacity we can have, ability now, because it's going to be much cheaper to do that now and to be able, than it is in the future. And we're just seeing the realization of those plans. Like, so I understand what you were saying. I just think that there has to be context in what you're saying too. You know, when you're talking about utilities, that's a separate punt from what's aspect. When we're talking about, growth in the debt service, well, my personal opinion, we're still way behind woefully on some things because we're just trying to catch up and be responsible with the issuance of that debt while at the same time realizing we're trying to keep up with the growth of the city. And that's the part where these things are investing now, but then you will see, in the next 5 to 7 years, a demonstrable difference in how they actually produce and what the citizens see from that. And the pain that folks are talking about is like, hey, wait a minute, we have all this debt service. Well, that's because of what we're doing with the growth ultimately with that. And from a citizen standpoint, the thing is that they have to be able to trust what the planning is. Trust what the judgment is right there. And to your point, you're saying, the swing, the reason why we had those cushions was because of what had happened previously in other cities and other areas. Like, hey, listen, we want to make sure if there's an emergency, we have funds to pay for that now. I do understand what you're saying regarding, hey, listen, okay, do we really need that much of a cushion? And actually, we've made changes for that moving forward on there. But for me, seeing this, it's a real conversation about what kind of Pflugerville do you want? Do you want this to be a pass-through city? Do you want this to be just a suburb that looks good, looks nice, has some good schools, some areas right there moving forward? Or do you want this to be a dynamic, innovative place that's going to make a difference on and not only the lives of the citizens, but the people that are around it in the region and the state and around this country? And it's a real conversation. And I'm not telling you I have all the answers, but I do know that when I look at this, and by the way, y'all have gotten better and better each year regarding the budgets and getting us and, you know, the links and everything else of that. So I really do appreciate that. It really makes me wonder where we're going as a city. And that's a question I mean, I would challenge everyone in this council and everyone in the audience to wonder, where are we going? And are you okay with what you see where we're going?
That's a great segue into this slide, because what you'll see in this slide is that not really as much removal of things, but just reduction of things. So the goats will still be here, but they won't be here as often.
Y'all should be.
Closing Windermere Pool, this reduced staff costs and operation costs. The frequency of special programs, maybe we did it 4 times, now we're going to do it 2. So that's what you're seeing in a lot of the reductions that hit this budget. New library collection, there's still going to be new library collection, just not to the same extent as previous years. We did look at where we were spending in consultants and reduced some of those third-party consultant costs. We removed certain events that this is part of the employee incentives, I guess, the University of Pflugerville. Tree maintenance, janitorial, and mowing contracts have all been looked at and adjusted for frequency. And so that's what you're seeing with a lot of these reductions in the budget.
I notice you're eliminating University of Pflugerville event, and I understand how important that is to upgrading the skill set of the people we already have. Have you looked at PF 101 and how is that? How much cost savings would there be by eliminating that?
We did, and we have the exact dollar amount. It's in the budget it was a line item.
It's not a real expensive program.
It's not super expensive. I mean, we're not buying them steak dinners. It's really, you get a binder and some pizza.
Okay.
It's more of just staff time, so I wouldn't, maybe they should bring their own dinner. No, I don't know.
I would say it's a pretty large
it's
program,
very-
too.
yeah,
It's
small.
very,
It's a nice program. I just, every penny counts.
We could cut council dinners too.
Absolutely.
Cut what?
I will.
I'm sorry.
Been done
I'm
before.
the outgoing mayor. I shouldn't say that.
I will.
It's like,
Good timing. I will resend y'all. I'd put it on your desk not too long ago, but we have a breakdown of council budget. I can resend that specific spreadsheet too.
Right, so looking at this list, it's a little disappointing. I've seen some of the music in the park and the Rock the Blocks as some of the most engaging times we have with our citizens. There have been incredible turnouts at those events, so reducing the frequency of those is disappointing. I'd kind of like to see how much we're actually saving from reducing those events. See if we can't find it elsewhere.
I was just going to bring up one of the things that we get comments about regularly is how clean our bathrooms are. It's especially. Oh yeah, you go to our frequency is much different from our
so I will
southern
say,
neighbors.
Our neighbors, yeah.
I will
And it's
say
a
on
much
that
more
one,
pleasant experience.
Yeah.
they
Yes.
actually shifted the times and when they get cleaned, which allowed us to drop one, but it's actually cleaning them like after the events and preparing. Anyway, the change in the janitorial services, the way it was explained to me, I don't think that you will see a decrease in the quality. It's
Okay.
just shifting when they come and clean and being more strategic that way. And they were
See,
able to
that's
drop.
exactly
See,
what I'm
why did you do
talking
that?
about.
You just threw a softball to her. You do
Yeah.
realize that, right?
Oh, we
Well, that,
we didn't cut costs.
It takes a
We
lot
optimized
of
the
thoughtful
user experience.
evaluation by finance and all of the other staff, and the managers to refine those in little ways to find. You know what? Can someone please explain to me what University of Pflugerville event is?
Sure. It's it's kind of like our one day of in-service. To be frank, I'm sad to see it go. I don't think all my employees, Shane, are not sad to see it go, but it's where every employee goes, and we do engaging sessions. We have a guest speaker. We do all of our awards at that, so we celebrate our employees, and it is loud and ridiculous and a ton of fun. I am sad to see it. It's the only time that all employees come together. You know, we have over 450 employees. It actually is pretty magic. So we just, these weren't easy decisions. This was, I mean, you know, you came out of the gate with it, Rudy, is like, why did we do that and not do this? Well, because we sat there for 3 weeks trying to figure out, where do you cut? What do you reduce? Because I could have made a broad stroke and just said, when Tracy came and said, you need to find 3.5 million to cut, do you just say, don't do any of those programs? Let's just do roads, cops, water, we'll be that city. And we decided, no, we know that our community demands engagement and quality of life, so we did that. So I would rather give to quality of life, and we will find ways to praise our employees in a different way. So we're seeking another way to do awards. It might be at the Green Red Barn without air conditioning or heat. They'll love it. And we'll just find different ways of doing it. It's not our favorite. We like to, you know, when you have over 70% of employees that are hard jobs, y'all have done it, y'all pulled lift stations, and you see what our guys and gals go through on the regular, and they're in the ditches literally, to give them an air-conditioned space to celebrate and cheer and play music and be loud is one of the reasons that I can recruit well, why we can retain well, why I continue to give public speaking engagements about what we do here, to be real frank, and I'm having to cut it. We're having to cut it because of all of these things, et cetera. So it's not to get super emotional, but this has been the toughest budget that I've ever been through, and I lived through being a director in a city in 2008. And I know y'all may see it as just tightening a belt, but some of these matter to people a great deal. So
I look there at the concrete trail repairs, at the reduced mowing contracts. Those are things where a small reduction in our maintenance and our investment can have a huge impact on the utility to the end user. If the trails are lumpy, no one's going to use those trails anymore. They can't use those trails. If we're not mowing the parks, then at some point you only have 3 days out of 21 that you can actually use the park instead of much more frequently. Those are things that I'm really hesitant to cut.
We are too. And if you want to find where I can find it, that would be great. But we have scalpeled, if you want to use that word, down to the line item of how many boots do I buy my employees? Do I wait for the hole to come out? How far do we take it? And it's been a real close look. We've given everything a haircut. And so you're not wrong. I'll go back and look at the events, but it's going to be at the cost of employees. It's going to be because that's where your dollars are, is in compensation, salaries, and having good people. None of this happens without the people, though. So these are hard decisions. I'll take a look at frequency and some others, but you know, my favorite event, Cars, Coffee and Fuel, no longer a band. And all those car people were getting on to me last week about we're the only show in Central Texas that does that on the regular. It's very beneficial. I had to cut it. On a better note.
We've been talking a lot about the expense side, and I think that's entirely appropriate that we do that. But one of the largest expenses, of course, is the interest on debt going forward. What are our projections about that and the debt that we're going to be issuing over the next year, and what are we looking at as our expected rates that we're going to have to pay on that? And are those numbers going up or down from last year?
Yeah, I don't actually have that in front of me, and that's probably a whole nother discussion. But we do have a 5-year forecast on our debt so that we can project what we think the property tax is going to do. Our intention is to try to keep that debt rate as flat as we can. We do have a healthy fund balance, so each year we've been using some of that fund balance.
I'm sorry,
that debt rate down.
I was imprecise in my use of language, and I think I miscommunicated. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about what is the interest rate on that we're projecting for the debt that we will be issuing over the next year? And is that number up or down from the interest rate that we were paying on new debt issued last year?
I don't have that number.
Okay.
We haven't projected out what the debt is going to
Might
be.
that be a substantial source of funds if that number goes up or down?
You mean the investment earned on the funds?
No.
The debt
No.
rate.
What we're paying on new debt.
Okay. So we're always looking at refunding if there's an opportunity for that,
Right.
to get those rates down.
And but we don't have any projection in the budget as you have it today for
No.
doing that.
So
So that might be some opportunity to free up some more.
I do
Well,
want to, I do want to make sure
yeah.
we clarify on that. So I did see we've got the $30 million in general fund, and was it 66 in utility fund that we plan to issue. That the debt payments on those won't begin until next year, so they wouldn't save any money in this year's budget, but that would be potential future impacts depending on the interest rate. I just want to
Downstream.
make sure we're talking about the future on that, not this current budget.
Right. And the other macroeconomic assumption question is about the sales tax. I noticed in looking at the sales tax figures so far this year, we have 1 month that seems to be grossly out of line with all of the others.
Right.
And then the others seem to be very close to where we were last year. Do you have any sense of why we've got that variance and where we're going to go going
So
forward?
the variance was one payment, which makes that 1 month look out of line.
Right.
So that was a one-off. We've been monitoring, we're close, if a little under 3% growth year over year. I'm hearing that we're not really expecting a lot of change in that. So we're trying to be as conservative as we can with our projections on that revenue source.
Okay. And in the event that number goes up, we might have a chance to refund some of these programs that we're looking
we can
at
always
with
do
a mid-year budget.
evaluation and see where we are with where we set the budget.
So if halfway through the year we're running at 4% instead of 3%, then we might be able to salvage the programs that Doug is concerned, Councilman Weiss is concerned about.
Yeah, but I also don't want to be Pollyannish. I think the reality of the situation is that it is what it is now. I think it's also another reason why it's more important than ever regarding the recruitment and retention of businesses. So we have the commercial interest, that tax base, so then we offset that burden from the citizens from there, and that's where the growth is going to come from. I think that it's great to think that might be a possibility, but that's it. I'm more interested in what you were, well, I guess you weren't saying it, but Tracy, you alluded to it right there regarding the issuance of debt, what we're looking at regarding the next several years. We did that maybe 6 to 8 months ago. Like we had a discussion about that. That might be a good discussion to bring up or a slide and have a discussion or work session in the next couple of weeks to remind council about that, because it's significant, and to do it right, we'll have to stay that course. But once we hit where it needs to be, then we'll see a demonstrable difference in what that looks like moving forward. But I think that given our discussion about what's happening right here, let's go from there. Doug, to your point, let's see. I mean, because those are front-facing things. I get it. You and I, we ride our bikes, run on these trails. Those are real. I know Serena's gonna say, okay, well, what do we do then? Yeah, I know.
I remember years ago having a conversation with citizens while standing in the park because, the fire ants were out of control. You couldn't use a park because of the fire ants, and if we treat, then we salvage the usability. If we cut that, then all of a sudden the park is much less useful.
Sure. So, for example, we went from 4 music in the parks to 2 and 4 rock the blocks to 2, saving a little over $15,000. So,
it's nebulous.
And even though y'all may not think 15,000, we are down to pennies.
But that's what
So
we're-
I just got to
that's what we're down
find. Okay, so another thing that we did that I don't think you've discussed is a vehicle, a VERF. It's called a Vehicle and Equipment Replacement Fund. One thing we haven't done that I do believe is financial good governance is setting up a future, because we're looking at reoccurring problems over the year, is that every year we're doing basically a zero budget theory and trying to buy vehicles and equipments whenever we really should have a fund that's been building every year. So basically, I do have money in this. I've been wanting to do this for 6 years and didn't really find the funds to do it. I was hoping to do it this year. I can just decrease from there and maybe do music in the park, right? You could do that. But I worry about this. So it's kind of back to, this was a fund that we started, and maybe I do one more year of not doing this so that I can have those events. I mean, this is what I mean by, like, nobody slept for the past 2 months on, like, figuring out which one is more important.
Well, this one in particular got me because, we got advice several years ago that the leasing model was going to provide us more flexibility and predictability. And this is a move away from that model by establishing a $700,000 fund for future vehicle purchases. So why are we going in that direction?
So, and I think both can be true, and at the time, we were fine with it. Thomas Hunter is actually my real expert on how, I know, you're welcome. I mean, you're good at it. Really talking about how that whole program works. And yes, I could argue either way for it. We feel that this will give us better flexibility in the way that we purchase, when we purchase, how we get registration stickers, all the process that goes into a vehicle. The pricing of vehicles is something that we could do from here. And I don't believe that you're getting a big cost savings from doing it from the lease system.
This would include police vehicles.
Yes.
To clarify, which one provides with a lower cost?
Thomas, do you want to, anybody want to?
I think we ran
We've ran
napkin numbers, and the lease program most definitely is a more expensive program.
So
Whereas
can
if
buy
we
cheap.
start building our vehicle equipment and replacement fund, it takes years to build this fund because you have to do it over time. But it allows for you to build that, I'll call it a replacement fee, or you can call it a lease fee, whatever you want. It's going to be built into the funds, the general fund and the utility fund, so that they're paying into this fund over time. I mean, 670,000 is a drop in, what our total fleet and equipment costs would be over the long haul, but it's a start, and it's a way to start the program.
But you can understand our frustration because,
Sure.
yeah, we've been here a lot. Again, I get.
Of course, you would still want to do this program because even when you're talking about the lease program, that's only certain vehicles. So it's not all your equipment, your heavy equipment. You're still not planning for the future replacement of
So
a lot of
you're-
that
you're
stuff
saying-
that
so it-
doesn't go in the lease program.
So it can be bifurcated because that's the thing, is that saying, okay, listen, we're shifting from here to leases, and then you know what? Actually, leases weren't that great. We actually should have had this fund. It's going to take years to develop. Well, then my argument would have been like, well, crap, we could have been doing that years ago to develop to where that is from that as well. And I mean, and I know that new information, new data, and it just goes with it. But you understand us being flummoxed by it right there. But it sounds like to me like you're saying there could be a possibility of a hybrid regarding that. Nonetheless, look at that. But you said you ran the comparisons, and you said leasing's much more expensive than doing what we're looking at over here, which I'd be curious to see too. Sure.
Now, is that true for all vehicles or only for certain kinds of vehicles? Well, my understanding,
It was just in general, the lease payments, when you do the math over time, are more expensive than purchasing the vehicle outright.
Are we keeping the leased vehicles for the same amount of time that we would be using a purchased vehicle?
So that's the thing is, you can extend the lease and keep it, but you're just going to keep paying the lease payment. Whereas if we get to 5 years on a vehicle that we own and bought outright, and we're like, it's still in good shape, it's not causing us maintenance issues, we can keep it another year. another 2
Rather
years.
than lease.
So we have a little bit more flexibility.
And there was some changes since when we brought y'all that leasing. There used to be this federal reimbursement. What was
That's
it
what I
called,
wanted
Thomas?
to hear.
So there was the ability for them to buy cheaper then and not now.
Okay.
So it's not apples to apples from when we first presented the lease program years
And
ago.
are our lease vehicles exempt from personal property tax? Or do we pay personal property tax through our leasing agency?
Property tax.
Thanks.
I would.
Well, no,
I
no,
I don't
see
think
that.
we do. I don't think I've ever seen a payment for that unless
Yeah.
it's just built into the lease.
I mean,
Yeah.
it could
But I
be,
don't-
but that
yeah.
that is why the
We can look
leasing
into
would
that.
be more expensive.
No, there's other reasons leasing is more
Yeah.
expensive.
That's the main reason in Texas why leasing is impractical.
But if it's still higher, then we'll just pay that. So I kind of was getting back to the concept of these are the kind of decisions. So do I want financial governance to be in this way or those events? And, I want to give you another example, because we could do this all night. I know we're burdened for time, but we have about 75,000 in savings for mowing every 7 days and going to every 10 days. But in our community park, so we are changing a little bit, but it depends where. So it gets a little complicated on the mowing, but we're just trying to save funds. If we start to get massive complaints and figuring this out, then we'll come back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those that we're going to try that. Now, also remember though,
Do
all
we have to
those-
wait for the complaints?
No, and I know they're all going to come from you, and we're going to check the IP address. And so,
You don't know who I am, but I'm calling
but that's
this
You can ask the vendor to evaluate the condition
Yeah.
of every park, and they can give their professional judgment.
yeah, and this is
advice on that.
we're doing all sorts of haircuts here, so we're going to figure out what looks good and what works. I'm not counting that 75,000 is for existing. What I'm not showing you though, I do have an increase in some mowing because of new parks. So every time we add a park, so I've
M&O.
it's not all apples to apples, but overall we're trying to reduce here and things that go on new, put it on that new schedule and see how we do, et cetera.
Cool.
Thanks.
Just having a tricky job.
It's fun.
Yeah.
So
So she actually
hotel
chooses one
occupancy
job.
tax. And another growing fund. So this is just a very high level snapshot of, you'll notice the revenue is really not changing a whole lot year over year. Interest income has been projected for less than in fiscal '26. We've done a slight increase in the short-term rental income, so that's the changes there. The economic incentive payment is a max, so it's always going to be the same year over year. And they'll be ending with about just slightly more fund balance at the end of fiscal '26. On the next slide, it kind of highlights.
Okay. On hotel occupancy, you have a lunch and learn coming up. I'm looking at entertaining doing a tourism PID, something the state started doing some years ago. So I'll introduce you another concept that can be used for a revenue source.
I would say the main change in this fund is that we did shift over partial funding of our tourism and marketing coordinator position. And so 80% will be HOP funded, 20% general fund. So that's really the main change in this particular fund year over year. But these are the type of expenditures that this fund covers. On to utility fund, so water and wastewater fund.
Can you go back to that last one? The last item on there, the short-term rentals. I know we've talked about this periodically. Are we getting compliance on that?
We are starting to see-
actually
we're
getting
starting
some
to
revenue on
see-
that? What's
We
happening
are.
here?
Seen an increase.
We are.
So the initial report we had was that there were 82 SDRs in the city once we did the dedupe, and the last I recall, we were getting revenue from less than 40 of those. A number of them said we're listed as a STR, but we're not really.
Correct.
Is that still approximately where we are?
Yeah, I think we're a little over 50 that have been registered, and that's continuing to rise. We did a second round of letters for compliance that went out. There are a handful that have called and said, I know my property's listed, but I'm not actively, using it, renting it out. So we're keeping track of all of those notes in the system. But yeah, we are seeing an increase in compliance on that.
Okay, thank you.
So high level on the water and wastewater fund, revenue is increasing based on the current rate model and the recommended rate increases that we talked about in July. Operating expenditures is increasing by 25% with additional staff for the new plant and the water treatment plant expansion. The annual debt payments are going up by $12 million. Capital requests are up by 1.5, so we're looking at, I think 2.7 in capital and one-time requests. And then there's a $6 million transfer over to the capital projects fund to start cash funding some of these CIP projects. Ending the fund balance at a 30% reserve.
So, if my math is correct, because there's no net change calculation, that we're projecting a $7.2 million surplus for fiscal year 25.
When you say surplus, you mean over what?
The net change.
Expenditures.
Okay.
Revenue or expenditures, which we have to keep a certain average increase for our debt coverage, which relates to our debt service. So our debt service went from 22 million to 33, and then it's going to almost double next year. So we're going to be continually looking at needing to make sure that we are meeting that debt coverage, and it all has to do with revenues over expenditures.
So I want to make sure I understand that. You said roughly a $7 million surplus, right? Is that the number I heard?
7.2.
Revenue over expenditures.
Right,
So
but when we have that, I call a surplus is going to get funneled into reserves,
right.
right? So that's going to end up in the reserves or the fund balance. Obviously, the fund balance here is not increasing by $7 million. Where is that going, and why is my fund balance dropping from 38% to 30%?
Because we're
with that
taking that
surplus?
$6 million and we're sweeping it over to the project fund.
So we're
so that we
gonna
can cash
To cash
fund
flow.
some of these CIP projects.
we're going to cash fund. We're going to use that money to cash fund CIP, and we're drawing down our fund balance, which is not drawing down our fund balance. We're not increasing it as much to keep up with the additional expenses because
Right.
it's
So
at
the-
19 million. It's 30% as opposed to last year. It was lower, but 38%.
Yeah, the additional revenue can be used for things, but we have to bring in the revenue to meet the debt coverage. And so even though.
And also to maintain our fund balance, and our fund balance is a
25%.
requirement as well.
25%.
And that's a requirement of our bond issuance, right? Maintaining the fund balance.
I mean, they will
No.
always look at things
No,
like
it's
that, but
our
it is our
policy.
policy.
It's a policy.
It's
Yeah.
policy,
policy
and it has to do with
and requirement.
ratings, and,
Yep.
I mean, it, so I did ask us to go to 30% this year, and I feel comfortable with it. Tracy gets a little less comfortable when I start going to 26%. So we kind of met in the middle at 30, and that's our goal.
Are we looking at 26% next year?
I mean, we may have to. I mean, the thing is that you give yourself the ability to cash flow and do cash projects. So that's what we're going to do this year. The problem is I don't predict the rain, right? And so when we talk water and wastewater funds, we are in a drought community
I was
with
going to say, but we're pretty
it's-
consistent.
pretty.
This year's atypical.
Last year we reduced
Yeah.
our average daily by 1 million. There's a little bit of movement. And
Wait,
you
a
really-
million what?
gallons per. It was what's it called? Y'all use an acronym.
Not
ADD.
Conservation.
Yeah. So when we were
okay.
doing conservation work, and then when you really think about it, 95% of our customers are residential, but they only use 50% of the water. And so let that sink in for a second. We're very different than a lot of communities. And so I get it that our water, and I won't get into a conversation too much about rates, but it is the backs of those. The residential is 95% of your customers. Our commercial, in Thomas's words, not all commercial is created equal. Our commercial isn't really high water users. We're not seeing the data centers that are draining water tanks, et cetera. But So
Yeah.
our projections are relatively solid because I see the 95%, but it does fluctuate some. So this is to make us have a peace of mind that I don't know what next summer looks like, and that's where
Well,
we
and
get
that's
from
why
there.
I have concern. I brought up with you regarding us. What are we doing regarding our watering days? Because we're going now. We've gone back up to 2. So 95% of our customers are residential, and we know that 90% of all water usage by those customers are not used to wash dishes, wash clothes or anything like that. It's to get nice clean
irrigation.
water and throw it on their grass.
Irrigation.
Yeah. So, and that's, we've got to have a real conversation about what are we doing regarding not only responsibilities, but a reality is the situation. Zero-scaping, I don't think we should be Arizona, but I think zero-scaping needs to change with that. I do appreciate and applaud staff and council for looking at some other ways regarding some of these new subdivisions
Artificial
coming.
grass.
Yeah, we could have artificial grass, but some of these subdivisions, in reality, what are we asking regarding our green space, and what are we asking regarding some of these other areas with that?
We're always going to support. I mean, it may be contrary to what people think. We're always going to support conservation.
Yeah.
I want you to use less water. We always want that. What I know that I can tell developers is that we do have water. And we have water plans for the next 50 years. And what I'm seeing in other communities, I can send you links in places in Central Texas where they're having to deny developments because they can't produce the water.
We know these places.
So you either have people that are really mad about not having water or really high water bills, and the trick is finding that middle ground to find out how can I promise water to a future company for the next 40 years, and we do it by expanding that water plant. We do it by drawing another straw up to the Colorado River. What y'all have done in the water world is magnificent. Let me be very clear. So I'm sorry to get off on budget. That ties to it because it is about the values that we have in investment for water. And to sum it up, I went back to 30%. Hope you're fine.
So going into rates, we did bring a lot more information in the July work session on rates.
Yeah.
Just to point out, last year when we were presenting our projections, we were projecting to be at 217.40, and so our proposed is 211.85 based on these assumptions. So we are down a little over $5 from last year's projections. Every year we will continue to refine, and hopefully our outer years will continue to come down based on new information. But this is where we're landing. These are the rates that are built into the budget. Highlights of the water and wastewater expenditures, total positions increased by 12. Same increases with the health insurance and the cost of living, 1.1 million increase in this category of personnel, operating in debt. Vehicle leases increase, sludge hauling, electric costs, maintenance, and chemicals, an increase of 1.7 million. Debt service is up to 33.7 million, which is an increase of an 11.7 million over fiscal 25. You'll notice on the list of the capital and one-time on page 23 in the budget, a lot of the equipment that's being asked for is for the new plant, and so we tried to indicate that and mark that. And then we are transferring $6 million into the utility projects fund in order to start cash funding some of these outer projects.
Now, obviously, that's a huge amount of debt that's being paid for by our current water rate payers. What are we doing to bring new water rate payers into our system?
What are we doing?
I don't know if the focus is necessary. I mean, development brings water users, but I think the conversation we're always going to have about water is density. If you've built a water line, you want more connections on it.
Yeah.
And so I want that in a shorter space. It's more about geographic when I think about that. I'm not confident that the question should be that what are we doing to bring in more ratepayers? It's the type of user. I just got talking about conservation, so I don't necessarily want to go promote another water park. right? Or a heavy user. It's just going to be more connections at a gradual way that's not taking up all the water.
So developing
Retail.
our
Retail would do it.
okay.
I mean, we know that.
I mean, I guarantee you, Costco's use versus versus data center is a very different conversation. So I think there's a balance between, are we focused on revenue or are we focused on long-term solutions for water? And to be frank, Central Texas, we're competing.
But I don't even know. I don't even know if I would say that it's such a just position, because we know the reality is that, like we said, baseline. We are. This is our reality regarding what we see, lack there of water. Give the governor credit regarding investing and understanding that we need to start the state plan for that. For
But we're
what
20
doing
years
regarding
out.
water. Yeah, but we still, just like
20
you
years
said,
out.
we still, what is it, another 140 billion that needs to be spent ultimately for it right there, not just the first 10 that we invested in there. We got ahead of this by doing that second straw.
That's right.
We did. I mean, and there are going to be, let's be clear, for the 4 people that are watching out there, there are going to be winners and losers in this. There are currently cities around us that are losing, substantial growth opportunities because of their lack of ability to access water. And that's not an issue here. At the same time, to your point, bringing people online, it's who, this is what, PCDC, no pressure. But, this is what we're looking for. We're looking for what growth opportunities, consider what partners do we have to go and bring in the right folks over here to cascade in a variety of different areas, including our, growing our ad valorem from, commercial uses, and taking that back off the residences. While at the same time, we know Serena's not a fan of data centers, and and their usage of water.
Data centers are
Depends.
typically moving to sealed systems nowadays, so they
I want
are
a closed loop system.
closed
Yeah.
loop. No longer draining cities of water, so
So-
they're less intense. It's electricity.
She
I'm
was
worried
going to talk about crypto mining.
So
next.
Brandon's dying in the back right now to talk about our efforts in potable reuse water, et cetera. And so we're doing all of those things.
Can you expand on that, because that's the answer for everyone. The cheapest water you're going to have
Is what
in
you have.
first life is what you already have, and potable use is what's being done in a variety of different
Everywhere
cities around. Not everywhere.
No, not in Central Texas.
But we've retrofitted and actually put in the permitting to make sure in the future. So I think we're 7 to 8 years out that we can do this, which will dramatically have an effect on what our water rates will be, which is huge.
And to speak regionally, I think all of Central Texas needs to be looking at it. You go to Big Springs, you go West Texas been doing this, Denton's been doing it. Everybody's been doing this. Where I place my affluent water is where I grab my drinking water, and that's pretty foreign to Central Texas. Why? Because we've always been able to rely on surface water. And now start looking at the drought trends, start looking at all of that, and you're not going to be able to do that forever. I think our team is well ahead, light years ahead, anywhere in Central Texas on doing these for the future of our residents, not putting us on the back of generations to come. It's pretty remarkable what we're doing in the potable reuse, and that's how data centers and other high users are going to have to take the future rather than putting on the backs of the natives.
And going back to Melody's comment regarding debt issuance and what Victor was talking especially about projecting and what we did with that land regarding their water and wastewater plants, this is why it was forward thinking to make sure that we actually had look for the permitting and have that ability for potable, for potable reuse built into it. So consequently, it's not something we're going to have to retrofit as we've had to do in other situations when it's come to water here with that. So I would say if you're talking to citizens about this, say, we understand, we are concerned as well. A fix is coming in. It takes a while for potable reuse to actually go ahead and get permitted because, you're cleaning the water. And they want to make sure that whatever water you're cleaning is actually water that you can use and drink again.
The water that's been cleaned.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, whatever water you're cleaning is actually clean.
And that's going to be first on the east side, though, because of the gravity situation.
The reuse, I think, is first 1849.
1849 right now is where we're converting.
Well, that would be on the east side.
Look, I'm part Aggie. No.
Wow.
Hey,
Wow.
easy.
I didn't even say that. Go ahead.
Easy.
Solid waste.
So the solid waste fund, no significant changes here. I think the main thing to point out is there is also no rate changes for this fund.
I was confused by this one. On the personnel, we showed this going from, I think, one position to 0, but we still showed.
That was an error,
That was an error.
and we
okay.
have fixed it.
So we do still have salary in this.
Yes, that one just dropped off magically at some point, and no, we have put it back on. So in the final book, it will have one in
Okay.
there. Yes.
Is there an
Thank you for
updated?
that.
Is there an updated book I can get my hands on, or is it?
We can
Ooh, shade.
upload a corrected book.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm always working from the most current.
Yeah, but we definitely fixed the
More
table on that one. Just wanted to highlight some purchasing policy changes. I know that we put a red line purchasing policy in the proposed document so that you could see the changes that we're recommending. There was a law change that increased the competitive bid threshold from 50 to 100, which is, it's been at 50 for a very, very,
Can you
very
explain
long
what
time.
that is, Tracy?
Do what?
Can you explain what competitive bid threshold is?
So it's basically the amount that we would have to go out for competitive bids. And so it's been for many years at 50, and they have increased it now by law to 100,000. So it just gives, obviously we know costs are continuing to rise, and it does give a little bit of flexibility to our purchasing department and our departments that have to go out and do these RFQs and RFPs. And so that was a good thing that got increased. But what we did in the policy was we increased the amount that those contracts would come to council. So we wanted to bring that up and make sure that council was comfortable with that. So instead of 50 or above coming, it would be 100,000 and above that would be coming. So the city manager's authority would be from 25 to 100. So those are the changes that were made in the policy. Just wanted to highlight those.
Just to clarify, the SB 830 allows the threshold to be 100,000, but doesn't mandate it.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
And so under 25,000 is handled how? The contracting
Well, the
authority.
authority is the directors for approval.
Okay, thank
So
you.
under 25,000 doesn't require city manager approval?
No.
So she sub-delegates that?
So our policy talks, it has to be, let me run back up. So currently my authority is 25 to 50, but I designate someone to sign, actually the deputy does really 25 to 50 the way our policy is written. The only thing that I authorize for purchasing is what you allow me to authorize in a public vote. So when y'all vote, it says have the city manager execute. That's my authority, is how I have lived out that policy. That's how I've done it. I could do 25 to 50. I don't. I delegate that, and then it must be budgeted. It hits these other thresholds. So when the law changed, we updated it.
Yeah, it's who
Are
ultimately
you
signs that
comfortable with
invoice.
that?
So I actually asked how often does this happen, right? And I forgot that number. It was not a lot.
250,000 times.
No, like in the 50 and under.
Yeah, I think
It's out of the amount of a $600 and something million budget that only happens
I think it was
30
a
times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
was
was going to say,
It's
it
not-
seems like it happens about every other meeting, or is it?
Yeah, so
more often
so the
than that?
contracts that would fit in that category, we went back a year and looked at them, and it was not very many. I am uncomfortable always, spending money that's not in this document that you're approving. So we're pretty conservative and live that policy beyond the letter of the law. And my staff has to have it written out somewhere, a spreadsheet, a backup document somewhere that it's in, that somebody's talked about doing this. We're not willy-nilly just spending $75,000. If I did, I'd bring back Rock the Block, and never mind.
And they're still required to get quotes. They're just not
It's all the
required to go through
rules.
the competitive bidding process.
How many quotes would they be required to obtain?
3.
Okay. And is there like a software internal control about this contracting limit through the AP system, or is this just manually?
Yeah, we have workflows and securities in place.
Thank you.
So this is our last fund to cover, PCDC. This is just a summary. We've added the column back in for the fiscal 25 projected. We're assuming a 3% sales tax, just like we have done with general fund sales tax. Projections are drawing down the fund balance for the non-operating expenditures of the 10.5 million. So their ending net position is right at 5.3 million, which does allow about almost 3 million over the 25% reserve. The assumptions in this budget are there will be 2 new personnel requested, research data analyst and innovation entrepreneur manager, and operating expenditures have increased by the 29% over the fiscal 25 budget. Those increases include advertising, memberships, training, and legal costs. The city still recommends for the PCDC budget a couple of things, removing the 2 additional FTEs, removing the IT support at 22,000. The recommendation would be city would provide that support. The other ones were just lowering the amounts to the historical average, and this extra $6 million in capital outlay that are not specifically related to a committed project.
So I'm just going to go for the big one, the $6 million one. If we remove that from the budget, that would mean it would be available in fund balance. So, and if a project became available and desirable, then we could choose at that time to fund it with fund balance rather than assuming it in the budget.
Correct.
Is that a question or a statement?
I'm just clarifying that that's the.
That is what would happen. Anything not identified in a budget is fund balance.
I mean, I'm not the executive director, so I don't. The FTEs. I mean, she's saying that. Okay, I can understand that. I'm trying to figure out the IT support though. So, how's that now?
They have a third-party contract.
They have Max.
Well, that and there's a third party. Financially, they have a third party.
So we have available staff to provide IT support?
We do.
4 users, yes.
Is it currently included in our admin agreement with PCDC?
No.
There's,
No, so that would need an amendment to the admin agreement.
Yeah.
I mean, if the city is providing support, that's not free. That's staff time.
Right. That's why we have an admin agreement that does include payment between the organizations, right? Same way we do transfers from utility to general.
So what is that cost?
23,000.
No. No, it would not. It would not be more than that.
Can you just get us?
And we have,
Yeah, just get us a cost.
how many did I see? 517
Because it's four.
employees.
It's 4 folks, right? Or it would be
So
6.
Adding 4 or 6
Nominal.
employees to that would be adding 1 to 2% to the IT budget.
And then that would reduce the general fund because you could have that transfer.
Yeah, because I mean, stop.
Then we have that $15,000 you guys are looking for.
That's true. And she can start
the
using it
block.
at the block.
Thank you.
No, I mean, it just if it's
Just got
nominal,
PCDC to pay
if
for
it's
it.
nominal, it's nominal. I guess just get us. Well, knowing y'all, haven't you? You've already done the estimate, right?
It's not. It would be. I'd say it'd be roughly the same, but there's more to it than cost. It's about getting everybody on the same system. We're all using the same calendars, going through the same training, using the same language. They're on the same system,
Security.
same computers
Security.
with the same support. I mean, it's more than just a cost discussion.
Talk about security. She said it like 5 times.
Do we
It would
have
be
a-
within our security system, and I
Do-
trust ours.
Do we have a fiber loop for our city facilities?
We don't.
Okay, how are our various facilities connected, Public Works and City Hall.
So we have some direct fiber runs to our like critical water wastewater facilities, and then we have a connection between City Hall and Public Works, or City Hall and the police department are our two cores.
Okay, but not to Public Works.
Not to Public Works, not a fiber line
Not
Okay.
a fiber line.
that I'm aware of.
It's
So it's very
SharePoint.
virtualized then.
SharePoint.
We use SharePoint for all of our contracts and documents. It's easier to manage.
Just
Like we're on
2006?
Microsoft Teams,
Our Microsoft Teams.
like we're all Microsoft. I think they're on Google. I mean, so
Some student in the back is raising their hand. I'm assuming he may want to come up here.
is that Cody? He's raising his hand.
If that's okay with you.
Yeah,
I mean, y'all aren't voting tonight, so I don't want a 30-minute
yeah.
conversation.
Stop.
Hello, everybody. I will be brief in my remarks, which is something y'all probably don't believe. We have had a conversation when I first got here. We went through and did an assessment on the systems to see what was best practice. Originally, I was not a fan of Apple, although I do have an iPhone. I wasn't a fan necessarily of Apple. Getting here now since February the 3rd, I have become a fan of Apple, and I guess still a fan of the iPhone. Our system is set up on Google, which is just as safe as any other company that provides internet services. We do have access to SharePoint. We transfer documents through SharePoint with finance. We do have access to Word, all of the typical devices. We share emails together. And so the communication piece is happening. I think the area that kind of gives me some concern is if I, as the executive director, have not identified the need, and I haven't brought it up, and it's been brought up, and I said, well, I'm looking at it, and it doesn't seem to be an issue. I don't understand why it continues to be brought up when we looked at it.
Have you gotten an explanation to why it's being brought up?
Economy of scales is what's oftentimes kind of thrown around, but $22,000 is not economy of scales. I mean,
Oh, we're
the time that
trimming $15,000 for Rock the Block, right? So we're getting in there with a scalpel. I mean, how
We're at that point.
we got
So-
a $22,000 expense. If we can save that with the admin contract, why not do it?
So in probably about a week, 2 weeks from now, we will all have a conversation on a situation that was done that the PCDC took the full brunt in year one. Instead of sharing, we are being really good at being team players in that regard. So it was, the take on was more than the 15,000. So we are being team players as far as the PCDC board and the city is concerned. I do hear and understand, the need for Rock the Block and the Palooza and those other events that really tie you to community. But even still with the 22,000, if I send a text message at 9 o'clock at night, because I work on stuff late at night, if I send that email out or that text message out to my IT folks, it's an automatic response. Unless they're knocked out sleep. Somebody responds, I have instant service.
James, if you send a text message at 9 o'clock at night, are you going to get an instant response?
Sure.
Probably.
Okay. So, I think...
I don't have probably though. It's a certain that I get what I need.
I've been here 7 years. I've never had an email emergency at midnight. So what do you mean by an email emergency?
Well, I didn't say midnight. I said 9.
Or 9 o'clock. So an off-hour
Hopefully I'm asleep
time.
by midnight.
I've never had ours is going to be more about security protection when you're asleep. Security protection on endpoint, security protection on email, things that aren't happening for the user. The users, I would have to ask IT, I don't think we get a lot of emails emergencies after hours. If
get
the
a lot of
email
phishing
doesn't
now.
go, the person that's probably receiving the email could probably wait till 8 in the morning anyways. But we don't, like, I'm not going to require us to have a headset 24/7.
Yeah,
and we have over 500.
I mean,
we have 500 users.
so your $22,000 IT support. What's the SLA in there?
You say SLA.
The service level agreement. Do you have 24/7 support by contract?
Yeah, if I text Eric.
No, I'm not asking you if you take. I'm asking what's in the contract.
In the contract?
Yeah, well, is it 24/7? What's
It
the
doesn't say
SLA?
24/7. It's.
I mean, there's
literally,
gotta-
if I text him, he responds.
Okay, there
I'm not
should
gonna
be
text him
a.
at nighttime. At 12 o'clock at night, I'm asleep. Hopefully.
So, just to move this conversation forward, I just
We can evaluate.
my personal opinion is this, and I live in a van by the river, is that if we can just synergize this, why not do it? Like if that works, that seems fine. The FTEs, you're the one who, I mean, you're the executive director. If you're telling me you need 2 FTEs, okay, I trust you on that. I'm just trying to see, given that, as Doug was saying, that we're using scalpels essentially on everything now, on some of these things. Like, it's 22,000 and you're going to get the same level of support. I haven't heard that that's not going to be the case.
I just got corrected. We do have someone on a phone call for after hours at all times. So I just don't think they get called very much for email emergencies.
Okay, stop. Okay. So if that's the case, yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, that's okay. I just think that, looking at everything else, I mean, I think we probably do need more advertising, honestly.
I mean, like
And
Google
counseling.
has
Yeah.
limited, all my emails to you get bounced back every week, so we have to convert it to a PDF because Google won't
I get them
increase-
all.
No, you get them after we send them. Yes,
Okay.
you
Well,
do.
Okay.
We redo
I know
yours.
what I read and what I read.
So,
we redo.
so my
got two
question
messages
about legals, you increased it by 55%. Is there something? Is the agreement increasing or what's going on?
55,000.
55,000. Sorry.
The increase for legal is due to the pending litigation. Well, not pending, the current litigation. And we've already started to see an increase beyond what we typically receive from our
Is
civil attorney.
that outside counsel? Is that an outside counsel
Yeah.
contract?
Or is it
Well,
there?
that's our current counsel who is,
So
having
he's
to
billing you
deal-
more.
He's handling
Yes.
he's handling the litigation himself.
well, his firm is.
Yeah. Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense.
Going back to the
Seems kinda cheap.
Google, Microsoft, I actually am dealing with that problem right now at my law firm. Some people who love Google.
Don't
and
you
some
run your law
people-
firm?
Yeah. But I have personalities, and some of them really want to do Google, and some of them really want to do Microsoft. And I have found that it creates a lot of friction trying to support both systems.
Yeah. I can see that.
And I'm a Mac head. I have been since 1986. But my understanding is that the city has a few Macs. It's mostly no Macs.
iPads. for
Nobody.
things, but not computers.
It's all they're all DOS machines.
PCs.
Yeah, and our issue isn't, really, this is kind of silly in my opinion, but it's not, it's really about, ours, and Cody can nerd out if he wants to and talk about email security and endpoint security and running different networks. If we want to argue over 22,000, it may not be worth it. It's really an effort to have one system.
Have synergy.
Yeah.
Security.
Okay.
I mean,
It does seem to me that going all Microsoft, which it's not like Microsoft
We're all-
isn't available
we're all
for the
Microsoft.
Mac, right? Would be better than having half Google and half Microsoft, or 98% Microsoft and 2% Google.
And that
Just my-
transition
just
wouldn't
my
take
thought.
months, would it? I mean,
no.
should
I'm
take
guessing not.
seconds.
Buying laptops.
So
It's never as fast as you think, though.
it's never as fast as you think.
Yeah.
Especially when we're
Computers.
talking about 22,000, then having to spend money on all new computer equipment.
Well,
This is not as easy as it sounds.
I'm not certain, and I mean, I think our tech people can answer that question much better than I can. That having the city do the support means that you have to do away with your max. I think
I had a meeting with him, Councilman, and I had a meeting with, I think his name is Cody. And in that meeting,
Cody right there.
Louisiana guy. The statement was that they can, but it would take some tweaking of a system in order to make that happen, and that it would probably be difficult for the Mac to adjust to the Dell system.
Okay.
So we would have to end up getting new computers. And some of these computers that we already have, that we've spent somewhere around $2,000+ on each,
Yeah,
we would have to buy brand new ones again.
Yeah, I don't know how recently you bought new desktop machines,
This year.
but I mean, my Macintosh desktop machines generally run $4,000 to $5,000 a pop. So, I mean, if you're replacing, now of course, Dell machines are cheaper, but if you're replacing, half a dozen machines, well, that's running close to your 22K right there.
Well, but you get it done one and
Yeah,
Once and
it's,
done.
it's
done,
one,
you
it's
know.
one done as opposed to.
There is something
not
to be
aware
said for
that-
that.
Macs are not compatible with Microsoft.
They
This
are.
is
No, they are.
No,
They are.
But there's
Okay,
some,
so that I
That's
guess
I
I'm
haven't had
missing
any.
the problem.
there's some
Okay.
back-end
That's all right.
Dell security
I'll trust you guys.
issues.
potentially, but
It's
that's
all
not for
fixable.
us
This
to
is
figure
easy.
out.
Okay.
In our world of projects, this would be this is
Okay.
easy.
Okay.
And I also spoke out of turn. I really would need to bring this before my PCDC board before. The reason why I didn't bring it to our board originally was because internally our staff hasn't had any issues with our IT service. So
Okay.
this is not something
So-
that we've shared or spoken with them about because it hasn't been an issue or concern.
So my,
Y'all have never been hit by a phishing attack or anything like that?
No, we have our own server.
Yes.
Everything. Well, let me speak.
Before you were
let me
here.
say February the 3rd, when I first got here, I did an assessment on the system, and I asked Eric Gomez, who's our direct connect. I said, "How can you make sure that this is a very safe system?" And we made upgrades to that system, and it's updated. We have our own private server. The system doesn't have. I don't know what to say.
It seems secured.
Well, I don't think anything's secure really. I mean, you just have to be very careful. I live in a computer internet security world at Office Depot, and I'm telling you, these guys watch everything, and it's pretty scary.
So I have a question. The PCDC proposed budget, has that been approved by the PCDC board?
We've reviewed. Yes, short answer is yes. We've
Okay.
reviewed it at least 3 times now. Gone through it. Had a committee that we had to review the documentation, then brought it back before our board, and they voted on it twice. And I even put it on the agenda again for the 20th because I want to make sure I'm getting as much and as many comments and thoughts about the budget as possible.
so my suggestion is this: is that I understand that you haven't proposed, they haven't seen this yet. I mean, but this is actually the process. It would make sense that you have your proposal, we see it, we're like, oh, okay, what do we
Correct.
like? What do we go from there as well? So that works. Like I said, the only thing that causes me heartburn is IT, and it's like, let's just do it now, rip the Band-Aid and get that done. It doesn't seem like it's too nebulous. It does seem like that. I know for a fact, being the person who is a Mac user at my firm with everyone in the docs, that it can be done. So I'm not going to tell you that you need to get to have that change. In fact, I'm going to tell you my suggestion, Serena, is to staff to work with him to make sure they're able to utilize that, because I just don't see that as an issue. Everything else, I mean, I don't see.
So you're fine with $6 million of uncommitted projects?
Well, he's gonna
We're talking about 22.
he's gonna bring up why he needs the $6 million.
Okay.
That's why I said it.
We'll hear
is
that.
on a road project. It's a Helios Way project. So
No,
No, it's
th-
not.
th- this is
No,
the
it's not.
uncommitted portion of the funds.
what? uncommitted.
The budget includes
The-
10.5. I'm just talking about the uncommitted funds. The
What-
project funds are still, we're not recommending removing those.
So that's going into reserves?
Well, I'm confused now.
So it was like 1 million for workforce development. It was like
It's
the different priorities.
Right.
Let's,
Wet lab.
It
let's
was
make
the
sure we're all on the
SEDS
same page. So the
SEDS project.
the 6 million's uncommitted.
Correct.
It's not
Go
toward
back to the other
Helios Way.
page.
So what is that 6 million for?
So where's the 6 million that you're talking
It's
about?
It's part of the
It's part of the
10,
10.
10.5.
It's 10.5.
So do we,
total.
so we have an itemized list
So-
of the 10.5 million, and 6 million has not an identified project.
Right.
So the 4.5 million is identified.
That doesn't sound right.
Okay.
I know. So
You have the
Exactly.
Helios Impact Way project. Then you have the
wet lab.
you say
Project Nexus, which is $1 million budgeted for it.
Okay.
You have the wet lab space that's budgeted for $1 million. And then you have the innovation and entrepreneurship that's budgeted for $1 million.
That's,
There's nothing that's uncommitted that I'm aware of.
So we may be
That
using
sounds like-
different language. So when we say uncommitted, and it's a policy decision on how boards want to direct staff to do things. So, for example, when we put millions of dollars into the budget, it's either gone through a plan, it's been workshopped, it's been direction, it's been a vote of the council. There's been direction. So I don't use a budget as a policy direction document. It's more of, we've actually gone and gotten quotes. We know how much we're going to spend on the wet lab. Is the wet lab for design, or is it construction, or is it land? We know
Okay.
$1 million won't. So it's more of a, it's how a board gives its policy direction, whether it be through a budget or through conversations and voted on in meetings. So what we would suggest, the way we do it, and it's a philosophy difference maybe between the board and the council, the way you do it is I'm not putting millions into a budget without significant conversation, a CIP program, third-party consultants, something that says it is $1 million and here's exactly what it's for.
So we're not gonna
Okay.
we're not gonna put $2.5 million into a budget to build a road and then discover that it's gonna cost 15 million.
It depends how
later.
much design and plan work you did before, but we know you want a road. So we've gotten so that has the council talked about a wet lab, and what is the million? Is it for the land? Where's it going to go? Who's going to operate? Like, has there been policy?
so it's a level of detail,
It's a level of
and it's about
policy.
where you're
Because
putting
I'll-
the money, but
Okay.
it's still
It-
staying in the PCDC
So I put in the
budget.
fund balance until y'all make a decision. Because it's no big deal to do a budget amendment. So
So that makes more sense. So it's not that the definition of vernacular regarding uncommitted is different
Right.
between the two.
Right.
Because you just articulate to us exactly. You're like, wait a minute, this is A,
Yeah.
B, C, and D.
I mean,
but as she's
It came from
conveying
the
it,
SEDS document
yeah.
that says
Yeah.
that you go into these endeavors. When we sat down and did this budget, we did it based off of the SEDS document,
Okay.
saying this is what we should be doing over the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
Which is why we place the money in the wet labs, because the SEDS document says to do so. Which is why we said to go with the innovation entrepreneurship as well as Project Nexus, because all of those three things were covered and advised in the SEDS document.
So my suggestion would be this: is that that makes sense. Makes sense what you're saying too, Serena. If you have any more, yeah, exactly. Any more data information to what specifically with that? Because it sounds like, okay, you do understand what that's going for, but the difference in the particularities and how it's articulated is the issue here. Because how much refinement has been done regarding what expense is going to go specifically to that, or as you said, Serena, it can stay in fund balance, but. That makes me feel, at least me personally, feel better about this, because it's not really uncommitted. It's this is how you explain
It's
it.
semi-committed.
Yeah.
Well, my question is, okay, so in the budget, I pulled it up, it says 3 million to the SEDS and 6 million to Impact Way, 1 million for land acquisition and 500,000 in retail infrastructure. So my question, and this is my question going to be about all one-time or capital expenses. You are confident that you're going to spend that much money in this next fiscal year, and that's the portion that you plan to spend?
So when it
And it's
comes
to that point
When it-
where you can actually spend it in the next 12 months?
to our announced projects, we normally will say, hey, this is a public notice for a project not to exceed this amount. And so that's the reason why we placed in those line items $1 million each, because we don't want to exceed. We can if we come back and do another project and notice the board or notice the public. But we do it in that fashion in order to be able to say it should not exceed this amount that we've noticed.
So you're using that as a pre-authorization for pursuing the project, or when you go get a bid, you're going to get approval from your board before you spend that $1 million?
So the goal really is, and let's take wet labs for instance. I've said this publicly a few times. I'm not all that sold that wet labs actually make a whole lot of sense right now in this moment.
But you're going to put $1 million towards it.
I could be wrong, but the SEDS document says that this is an area that we should go into. And quite honestly, every community in the capital region has been having this hot buzz term of wet labs and life sciences. When we do that as a project, we're able to then say, okay, let's do some due diligence and do a study on whether or not this makes financial sense for us to do it. We may get to that study and we may get to $100,000 of a study done on that concept to find out that it does not make financial sense for us. At that point in time, we're not going to spend not another dime towards wet labs, because the board will have reviewed it, the council will have reviewed it and understood that it just does not make sense for a myriad of reasons to do that project. Or it could come back and say it's the greatest idea since sliced bread, you should proceed at no cost. That gives us the due diligence in order to be able to see what we need to do next. But we can do 500,000, it could be whatever the number is. We will just have to come back and do a revision, modification, whatever that looks like, and piecemeal. What I've heard from this council is that you guys don't necessarily like to piecemeal. You like to get things done the first time. And so that's why we shifted it to where it is 1 million in each pot. Get to the point whether or not it makes sense or it doesn't make sense to proceed based off of data and information and findings, and fact findings, or go in a different direction. So that's the reason why it's set up in that fashion.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Jerry.
And we may need to clean up the FY25 capital on PCDC projections.
Why? Can we go back?
Did we have it in there? It's projecting, where is it?
10.04.
It's projecting 10 million.
It's because it has the land purchase in there, the 52
Okay.
acres.
And so it'll hit that 10 million?
It's already hit.
Okay.
It was 7 something in land purchase.
Okay.
Thank you.
So also, if we could have that net change calculation on that PCDC, that would be helpful. Thank you.
So next steps, August 26th, I neglected to put that on here, but August 26th, there will be a public hearing on the fiscal 26 proposed budget, coming back on September 9th with a public hearing on the tax rate, a master fee schedule ordinance, and adoption of the budget on September 9th.
Okay.
That ends our
All right.
presentation.
Thank you
on the
very
budget.
much.
That was a very short presentation.
You're right. So,
That would be
was that it?
for that, yes.
Okay.
On the
I have
TV.
the next item too, so I was just gonna.
Let's see. Are we talking about 2B, presentation regarding Pflugerville Community Development Corporation financial report? Okay. I thought we kind of did that, but that's all right.
So this is their third quarter fiscal 25 update, very quick update. Total revenue, we're at 66% of budget, sales taxes at 73%. We're projecting it to end at about 98% of the budget. Interest income is at 58%. The revenue will be received in quarter 4. On the expenditure side, 24% of budget has been spent. Personnel is at 46%. Operating is at 83%. Development incentives are paid out in the fourth quarter, so we'll see that in the next report. Capital projects at 6.1%. And debt payments, a large portion of that will also hit in the fourth quarter.
What is capital projects projected to be if we're only at 6.1% now?
I don't have the total in front of me. I will say we had a couple of projects in the budget. They have not gone to bid yet. The expenses that you do see when we send out the numbers is the engineering costs on those projects.
And so will those be then encumbered for next year and then will come out of fund balance?
Yeah, so once we actually get a construction contract, we'll enter that contract. That will carry over into next year. Those funds should already be in the fiscal 26 budget to cover those contract costs.
Tracy, can you get us in our weekly update the other revenue that's to be expected in quarter 4?
It's the water park payment. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
I think we have a footnote in the quarterly
okay.
for that. And that's
Okay.
it.
Thank you. We have 14 minutes for the next item. I don't know.
I think y'all are gonna take longer.
I think we're gonna take longer
I do too.
Yeah.
I'd say
because there's actually real stuff happening.
Okay, I'm sorry for the legislative session update, Brianna. Let's see, whoever's here for that, we'll work that into the regular session. Okay, we are adjourned for the moment.